I used to believe that love meant endurance, that if you stayed long enough, sacrificed enough, and gave enough of yourself, love would eventually reward you. I believed marriage was a place where two people carried each other through life, especially when things were hard. When I married him, we had nothing but hope. No luxury, no safety net. Just dreams whispered late at night and promises spoken with certainty. He was ambitious, full of plans, always talking about the future. And I believed in him, sometimes more than he believed in himself. I didn't mind working longer hours. I didn't mind skipping rest, skipping comfort, skipping my own desires. I told myself, this is what love looks like. Slowly, without realizing it, I became the foundation of his life. I handled the finances because he said numbers stressed him out. I paid the bills because he said he needed space to grow. I invested my savings because he said it was for us. Every decision was framed as teamwork. Every sacrifice was justified by the word marriage. I remember nights when I sat at the kitchen table surrounded by unpaid invoices and spreadsheets, calculating how to keep us afloat. He would be asleep, peaceful, dreaming, while I stayed awake carrying the weight of our survival. And I told myself I was lucky. People praised him. They called him intelligent, driven, successful. No one praised the woman who quietly made it all possible. Years passed like this. And slowly, something changed. He stopped asking how my day was. He stopped sharing his thoughts. His laughter felt distant, like it belonged to someone else. I felt it, but I ignored it. Because admitting something was wrong meant facing a truth I wasn't ready to see. Then came the late nights. Work, he said. Pressure, he said. Just a phase, he said. His phone was always locked. His smile no longer reached his eyes. And when I spoke, it felt like my words passed right through him. I blamed myself. Maybe I wasn't exciting enough anymore. Maybe I had become too serious. Maybe love just fades with time. That's what I told myself, because believing that was easier than believing the man I built my life around was slowly walking away from me. Still, I stayed. I stayed loyal. I stayed committed. I stayed silent. I thought marriage was about patience. I didn't know that while I was protecting our future, he was already planning one without me. And that was the beginning of the end, even though I didn't realize it yet. There is a moment in every broken marriage when silence becomes louder than words. For me, that moment came when I realized I no longer recognized the man sleeping beside me. His presence felt unfamiliar, like a guest who had overstayed his welcome. He was physically there, but emotionally, he had already left. The house grew quiet in a way that felt heavy, suffocating. We stopped having real conversations. Not fights, just emptiness. When I spoke about my day, he nodded without listening. When I asked questions, his answers were short, rehearsed, almost offensive. And then came the changes I couldn't ignore. He cared about his appearance more than before. New clothes, new cologne, a sudden interest in the gym. Things he never cared about in all our years together. I told myself it was confidence, growth, midlife ambition. But deep down, something inside me was screaming. Late nights became normal. Business trips appeared out of nowhere. His phone never left his hand, and if it did, it was face down. One evening, I reached for it absent-mindedly, just to check the time. He snapped. Not loudly, but sharply. That was when fear entered my heart. Because anger like that doesn't come from love, it comes from guilt. I began to question everything. Why did he smile at his phone but not at me? Why did he suddenly need space from the woman who had carried his burdens for years? Why did I feel like I was intruding in my own marriage? Then came the night that changed everything. He said he'd be working late again. Something inside me refused to stay quiet. I didn't plan to follow him. I didn't want proof. I just needed my heart to stop trembling. I drove slowly, my hands shaking on the steering wheel, my mind praying I was wrong. I wasn't. I saw him sitting in a cafe, not alone. She was younger, well-dressed, confident. She leaned toward him the way I used to, before love turned into labor. They laughed. Not the polite laugh you give a colleague, but the kind that comes from intimacy. I didn't interrupt. I didn't scream. I didn't collapse. I sat there, watching my life fall apart quietly, piece by piece. In that moment, years of sacrifice flashed before my eyes. The bills I paid, the nights I stayed awake, the dreams I postponed. And I understood something painful. He didn't fall out of love overnight. He replaced me slowly while I was busy holding everything together. When I confronted him later, he didn't deny it. He sighed, as if I had inconvenienced him by discovering the truth. He said he was confused. He said he needed happiness. He said I wouldn't understand, but I understood everything. I just wasn't prepared for what came next. Because betrayal doesn't end with discovery. That's when it truly begins. After the truth came out, the house no longer felt like home. Every room carried echoes of conversations we never finished. The walls felt tighter, as if they were listening, judging. We lived under the same roof, but we were strangers. Two people bound by history and separated by betrayal. He changed completely. There was no guilt in his eyes. No apology heavy enough to matter. Just impatience, like he wanted the ending to hurry up. He spoke to me carefully, not with kindness, but with calculation. Every word felt rehearsed, as if he had practiced this version of himself before ever confessing the truth. He said he wanted a divorce. Not because he hated me, not because I had done something wrong, but because he wanted a new beginning. Those words hurt more than anger ever could. A new beginning, built on everything I had sacrificed. I remember sitting across from him at the dining table, listening to him explain how we had grown apart, how love had changed, how this decision was inevitable. He spoke as if we were discussing weather, as if years of loyalty were a minor inconvenience. And when I finally asked the question that had been burning inside me, "Is it her?" he didn't answer right away. He looked down, then nodded. That nod ended a chapter of my life forever. The divorce process was fast, too fast. He assumed I would beg. He assumed I would negotiate emotionally. He assumed I would be too broken to think clearly. He underestimated me. Because while he was busy imagining a future with her, I was waking up to a truth I had ignored for years. I had more power than I ever realized. I reviewed documents calmly. I read every financial statement carefully. I listened more than I spoke. He was careless, confident that I would remain passive. But I wasn't angry. I was awake. I realized that every account we owned, every investment, every business move weighed heavily in my favor. Not because I wanted control, but because I had always been the responsible one. When the divorce was finalized, he walked away with pride. He thought he had won. He thought freedom meant escape. What he didn't know was this. The moment he left, I made a choice. Not out of revenge, not out of bitterness, but out of survival. I stopped supporting what no longer respected me. The cards were canceled. The access was revoked. The safety net disappeared, and I did it quietly. No announcement, no warning, No drama, just silence. Because sometimes the strongest response isn't confrontation, it's withdrawal. And that silence would soon speak louder than any argument ever could. At first, his new life looked perfect. Photos appeared on social media, carefully chosen moments designed to tell a story. Smiles that looked effortless. Dinners in places we could never afford before. Captions about freedom, new beginnings, and choosing happiness. People congratulated him. They called him brave. They said he deserved joy. They said everything happens for a reason. I watched silently. Not with jealousy, not with anger, but with a strange sense of distance, like watching a movie I no longer belonged to. Behind the screens, reality was far less beautiful. Without my quiet support, his world started to feel heavier. The expenses he never noticed before suddenly demanded attention. Bills didn't pay themselves. Accounts no longer magically balanced. Responsibilities he had never carried alone began pressing down on him. At first, he thought it was temporary. A delay, a technical issue, a misunderstanding. Then the calls started. Banks, business partners, vendors. Each conversation ended with confusion, frustration, and excuses. He tried to maintain the image of success, but stress crept into his voice. His confidence became forced. His patience disappeared. And the woman he left me for, the one who believed she was marrying a dream, began to see the truth. Love is easy when comfort exists. It becomes fragile when security disappears. She noticed the tension, the sudden mood swings, the arguments over money. She asked questions. Questions he couldn't answer honestly. Because the foundation of his new life was built on something he no longer had, my stability. Meanwhile, my life became quieter. I learned how to breathe again. I rebuilt my mornings without anxiety. I slept without waiting for footsteps at night. I rediscovered the peace that comes from no longer being responsible for someone who never appreciated it. Healing wasn't loud. It came in small moments, drinking tea without rushing, walking without explaining myself, smiling without fear. Then, unexpectedly, he reached out. Not to apologize, not to reflect, but to ask for help. His messages were cautious, almost polite, like speaking to a stranger who might still be useful. He mentioned pressure, stress, temporary setbacks. I didn't respond. Silence was my boundary. And silence taught him something he never learned while we were married. I was never replaceable. As his world grew unstable, mine became firm. Because when you stop carrying someone else's weight, you finally learn how strong you really are. And this was only the beginning. I thought the chapter was closed. I truly did. After months of silence, distance, and quiet healing, I believed his life no longer had the power to reach me. I had stopped checking social media. I had stopped asking mutual friends for updates. I had finally learned how to live without measuring my worth through someone else's choices. Then the news arrived. Not dramatically. Not cruelly. Casually. A mutual acquaintance mentioned it in passing, like it was ordinary, harmless information. "He's getting married," she said. The words didn't hit me immediately. They hovered in the air, waiting for meaning to settle. Getting married. To her. For a brief moment, my chest tightened, not from jealousy, but from memory. I remembered the vows we once exchanged, the promises he broke so easily, the future he abandoned without looking back. But something unexpected happened. I didn't cry. I felt calm. The kind of calm that comes after storms you survive. That night, I sat alone and let myself feel everything honestly. Not the version of emotions I thought I should feel, but the truth. I felt relief. Relief that I was no longer standing beside someone who saw loyalty as optional. Relief that the role of silent supporter, financial backbone, emotional anchor, it no longer belonged to me. Still, a question lingered quietly in my mind. Would she ever know the full truth? Would she understand what she was stepping into? I didn't warn her. Not because I lacked compassion, but because some lessons refuse to be taught secondhand. People believe what they want until life shows them otherwise. The wedding invitation never came, and even if it had, I wouldn't have gone. That chapter had no place for me anymore. As the wedding date approached, I focused on my own life. I worked, I planned, I rebuilt with intention. I invested in myself the way I once invested in someone else. Meanwhile, he prepared for a celebration built on a fragile ground. What he didn't know, what none of them knew, was that consequences don't rush. They arrive precisely when they are meant to. And the wedding day would not unfold the way he imagined. Because sometimes the past doesn't need revenge. It simply waits. The wedding day arrived dressed in perfection. Everything was planned carefully. Every flower, every chair, every note of music chosen to tell a story of love and new beginnings. Guests gathered with smiles, cameras ready, dressed in elegance and expectation. No one spoke about the past. Today was meant to erase it. The groom stood confidently at the altar, tailored suit pressed, posture proud. From the outside, he looked like a man who had survived heartbreak and found happiness again. But confidence can be rehearsed. And peace, real peace, cannot be faked. The bride walked in glowing, her smile steady, her eyes filled with belief. She trusted the future waiting for her. She believed the man standing ahead of her had left his past behind cleanly. The officiant began to speak. Words about love. Words about commitment. Words about honesty. Ironically, honesty hung heavy in the air, unspoken, unwelcome. Just as the vows were about to begin, the doors opened. Slowly. Every head turned. A man stepped inside, calm and deliberate. He wasn't dressed like a guest. No smile, no confusion. His presence didn't belong to celebration. It belonged to consequence. He walked forward without hesitation. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Who was he? Why now? What was happening? The groom's face changed. Color drained from his skin. His confident posture stiffened. Recognition flickered, brief, but undeniable. The man stopped a few steps from the altar. He spoke clearly, professionally. He introduced himself as a representative, sent to resolve long overdue financial matters. Silence swallowed the room. The officiant froze. The bride turned slowly, confusion clouding her face. Guests exchanged uneasy glances. The man continued. Outstanding debts. Frozen assets. Legal obligations ignored for too long. Each word landed like a blow. This wasn't a discussion. It was an announcement. The groom tried to speak, tried to regain control, but his voice failed him. The illusion cracked. The bride stepped back. Her smile vanished. Her certainty collapsed. This was not the future she was promised. The ceremony stopped. Music faded. Cameras lowered. Whispers grew louder. A wedding built on denial had just been interrupted by truth. And somewhere far away, without witnessing a single moment, I felt it. Not joy, not revenge. Closure approaching. Because when truth finally walks in, it doesn't need an invitation. I wasn't there when everything fell apart. I didn't see the guests leaving in confusion. I didn't hear the whispers. I didn't watch the celebration dissolve into silence. But I felt it. Not because I was waiting for revenge, but because something heavy inside me finally let go. For a long time, I believed closure had to come from answers, from apologies, from explanations that made pain easier to carry. I believed I needed to witness his regret to move forward. I was wrong. Closure came when I realized I no longer needed anything from him at all. That realization didn't arrive dramatically. It came quietly, on an ordinary day. I was sitting alone doing something simple when it struck me. My heart was calm. No anger, no curiosity, no longing. Just peace. I thought about the woman he married, or almost married. I didn't feel hatred toward her. She believed a story the same way I once did. She trusted someone who had already shown who he was. Life would teach her what I had learned the hard way. And him? I didn't wish him pain. I wished him awareness. Because living without accountability is its own kind of emptiness. As for me, I rebuilt everything. Not just financially, but emotionally. I learned how to stop overgiving. I learned how to recognize red flags instead of decorating them with hope. I learned that loyalty should never require self-erasure. My strength no longer came from endurance. It came from boundaries. I no longer defined myself as someone who was left. I defined myself as someone who chose herself, after years of choosing everyone else first. And if there is one truth I want anyone listening to remember, it is this. Sometimes the most powerful response to betrayal is not revenge. It is removal. When you stop supporting what harms you, when you stop financing disrespect, when you walk away with dignity, life has a way of restoring balance on its own. You don't have to chase justice. It knows where to find you. Final closing line for voiceover. She didn't destroy him. She didn't expose him. She simply stepped out of the way and let truth arrive on time.